To another video, Purple Political Talk here. Today is Monday, June 14th, 2021, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing the 2024 presidential election and going through a matchup that I think is very interesting. However, it's not the most likely matchup for this election, that being the matchup between former President Donald Trump and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. So before we begin with this prediction, I wanted to remind you guys to please like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to be up to date with our latest content, and make sure that you guys are always updated when I post a video. So please do that to make sure you're always up to date. So let's get started with the video. So I'm gonna start by filling in the safe states, and while I do that, I want to discuss a little bit of what I think about this matchup, how likely it is, and then where I think it could go. So, generally speaking, I think this matchup is unlikely. I think mostly on Bernie Sanders' part, but I mean, it's not a given thing that Donald Trump will run for re-election, especially with a lot of the social media bans, which is going to make him very, very difficult for someone like Trump to run a successful campaign. So, I really think that come 2024, Bernie Sanders, although he might not want to, and he's already come out and denied it, but things do change. It might be a really good time for Bernie Sanders to run for president. Why do I think this? I really think this because amongst Democrats, although general broad approval ratings are high for Biden, and this is like supposing that Biden doesn't run for re-election. The approval ratings, and I think the real sentiment in the Democratic Party for Biden administration right now is really not as good as it seems to be. I mean, it really looks like broadly compared to like a lot of Democrats are obviously going to approve of Biden just because of a stark change that's had from Trump. But with a lot of the different things and the different ways that he's like gone about many different situations, those different ways are really not, I guess, by Democratic ideals. And I think come 2024, a lot of Democrats, especially those very liberal Democrats who would vote for someone like Bernie Sanders or who supported Bernie Sanders during the primary, might come back. And if, let's suppose it's a big primary between a very progressive and Kamala Harris, those the progressives are really going to have the opportunity to really grow and to really gain a market from a lot of those Democratic voters who are not happy with a lot of the actions that the Biden administration took. And I think just looking at certain things, the bipartisanship, the slow movement of everything, when the Democrats could really do a lot of more different things, I think that general sentiment is not going to be good for them. As far as Trump goes, I always say this now in these videos where I have him as in a prediction. Majoritarily, I think he's gonna have two big challenges, and I think first is social media. And look, remember, Donald Trump's campaign in 2016, he won the election for many different reasons, but I think the biggest reason, I mean, other than Hillary Clinton's unpopularity, and that's more of a side effect. The real reason why Trump won the election in 2016 was his ability to use social media to his advantage. So with that almost completely gone, he's not going to be able to tweet anymore. Facebook has banned him for 2 years, so that would be that'll still be in time for the 2024 election, but still, who knows what's going to happen with that. That's going to be a very big challenge for Donald Trump. So that's the first thing. And then the general last days legacy that he had after the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, I think it's going to be something that's going to be, somewhat difficult for him. So these are the safe states, and I think these are pretty self-explanatory. The West Coast, the Northeast, and then these two states. I think one interesting thing here is Colorado. I think with Bernie Sanders on the ticket, liberal Colorado citizens are going to go out and vote by the masses for him. As for the Republican states, again, these were pretty self-explanatory. Very old Republican, solid states that I think Donald Trump is going to do very well at. So let's move on to our toss-up states, which are all going to be all the states in gray. These are states that I expect in this matchup to go by less than 15%. And they're going to be divided into a couple of different categories depending on their margins. So let's start off with the Democratic likely states, or states that I think will go between anywhere of 5 and 15%. So with Bernie Sanders on the ticket, I think Sanders is going to do very well in areas like Virginia, maybe move this state might move a little bit further to the right compared to 2020. However, I think it's still going to be over that 5% mark. That would be the necessary for a victory there. New Hampshire, this is an interesting one, I would say, because I really don't think they would really like someone like Sanders. However, Sanders' presence in the region from right next door in Vermont really might help him out and actually win the state by those margins. This is a state that has really been trending very, very blue. So I think that considering Donald Trump's kind of general unpopularity with a lot of like the New Hampshire type of voters, the suburban, because although New Hampshire is mostly made up of towns, it's just small towns, they vote like suburban voters. So I really think that here it's going to be a challenge for Donald Trump. So I think Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is really going to do well there. As far as the rest of these states go, I really don't see anywhere else where Sanders might get by more than 5%. I would say maybe Minnesota, but that's questionable. As for Trump, I think that against Sanders, you're going to see a very big anti-socialist movement like you see in Florida. I mean, Florida, I think, is going to be considerably more and more stronger for the Republican Party as the Democrats move further left. And truly, the anti-socialist message, whether it is exaggerated or not, whether it's true or not, politically really helps out Republicans in the state of Florida. I could argue that the main reason why Biden lost in Florida and lost big in Florida last time around was mostly because of the anti-socialist message. And I mean, another thing that I think really hurts Sanders is he has somewhat support among certain minorities. However, I must say that it's not as big as other Democratic candidates might have. And I think considering his complete branding himself as a Democratic socialist, that's going to hurt him in certain states. So I think Florida is going to be, a result of that. I think it could actually go by 5 points if Sanders is on the ticket. Both times that, Democrats had primaries in Florida where Sanders ran back in 2016 and again in 2020, Sanders lost in Florida. He wasn't popular. As far as Texas goes, I really think that even considering the liberal movement, just changes in demographics and even the vote down south, I think Trump against Sanders again would go on and win that area of the country. I just think that ultimately for Democrats to win in Texas, you're going to need somewhat of a more conservative Democrat who can, excite everyone out. So I really think that Trump's going to win there if this is the scenario. And I think Alaska, again, pretty self-explanatory. And then other states that we're looking at, Iowa and Ohio. These states are actually more interesting if Sanders is the nominee. Because I think that Sanders, he has certain appeals to some farmers in rural areas in Iowa and Ohio. And then again, there's like certain populations that he could appeal to with a lot more liberal messaging. However, I think that even considering that, Trump has a lot more rural support. So these are states that again have been trending a lot further right. But if Democrats can get their message and start appealing back to those rural farmers, but really won them the election by that big margin in 2008, I think they could be back for victories in Iowa and Ohio. But as of right now, I really do think that Iowa and Ohio are going to be red states for a really long time. So these would be all the states that I believe will go by likely margins. Let's move on to the lean states. These are states that I believe will go by more than 1.5%, but less than 5%. So for the Republicans, or for the Democrats rather, I really think that Sanders is going to do somewhat well in Nevada. He's going to get all those working class voters going up for him. Trump has some supporters in Nevada, but I don't think it's going to be enough. As far as the Midwest goes, I think the only place that in this matchup would really be in the lean margin would be in the state of Minnesota. Minnesota is a state that is considerably more liberal than the other Rust Belt states. But then you also have the interesting fact that you have the rural farmers, which are more conservative. And this state could be close, but I think that Sanders' support here might be outweighed of Trump's support in the rural areas. I think in Minnesota we could see going by anywhere between 2 to 3%. As far as the rest of these states go, I really think that Nebraska's 2nd district, this would be close since it's more of a moderate district. It's But then when you have a race like this where you have kind of the two opposite extremes between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, I think it could be close. However, I think that this could go by tilt margin, but I think Bernie Sanders could pull it off here. And again, it's an urban district, but then it's also moderate, so that's an interesting thing to see right there. As far as the rest of these states go, I think the Democrats can't win these by more than 1.5%. However, the Republicans, I think, if this is the matchup, I think they could flip back in Arizona, they could flip back Georgia, and they could keep North Carolina. So these three states are states that I really think that moving forward, their flip might have been a one-time thing. In some of these states, I think just looking at the general voting data and then, the big voter fraud schemes or the theories, which, those, I mean, I wouldn't count them out completely because who knows, maybe they're true. They need to be investigated, but I really think that a lot of those things tell us that the Democrats' victories in these states are not solid things. They're not things that are going to be knock on wood forever. So I really think that in these states, come 2024, and especially if Bernie Sanders is the nominee, we don't have a moderate like Biden, but rather a more radical Democrat. I think that Trump could go back and win some of these country club Republicans back, and especially a lot of those voters in these states that are suburban voters. It's a possibility for Trump to go back and win those voters. And in North Carolina, I also think we're going to see the same effect. That the African American vote, again, it also depends who the running mates are. But for Sanders, he can't really appeal that much to African American voters like someone that like Biden could. So I think that's something that we should definitely look into. And I think that's why in North Carolina, we're going to see a relatively close race. However, I think it's going to be further onto the Trump side. Now, we have 4 states remaining, and these are states that I think are going to be in the tilt column. These are states that are going to go by less than 1.5%. So these are the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Maine. Maine's 2nd district. So I think Maine's 2nd district is going to be tilt Donald Trump. I think that this district itself is interesting because of just how close and like it's close to Bernie Sanders region, and I think that although even that I think that's gonna help Bernie Sanders out a little bit. Democrats have had very poor showings in Maine 2nd district, in their Senate races, in their House races here. Well, they won the House race here, but in the presidential and Senate level, they didn't do very well there. So considering that it's a more radical Democrat, I think it's going to be a little bit harder for Bernie Sanders to win in that region of Maine. As far as the Rust Belt goes, I think it's going to be interesting. I think that Bernie Sanders could end up winning in Michigan by a very narrow margin, winning a lot of those Detroit areas. Now, what I question is Bernie Sanders going to be able to win the Grand Rapids area and other suburban areas? That's a big question, and I think it's very up in the air. However, I think that just trying to support for Democrats and with, surrogates campaigning, I think that he's going to be able to win that state narrowly. And the other 2 states, these are states that are very, very, they're very, very close right now. And, I'm going to give you the example. Michigan really went by a lot more for Biden than it went, than the other 2 states. Because really, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin were under a point. So I really do think that Trump might be able to flip these states if Bernie Sanders is the nominee. A lot of those voters that voted for Biden because of his blue collar appeal, those voters are going to be gone out the window when Bernie Sanders runs. So I think overall this race is going to be interesting to see if it plays out. I mean, it's pretty much the 2 extremes of the opposing parties, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. I mean, for Bernie Sanders, this might be the biggest shot to get to the presidency if he wants to. I mean, he's going to be really old by then. But I think an interesting thing is that considering the current political landscape in the Democratic Party, it might be Bernie Sanders' ticket to the White House. And as for Trump, I mean, I really think it's going to be a hard decision for him to not run or not. I think at the end of the day, it might be a poor one to run. However, if he does run, I mean, Bernie Sanders is going to be a very easy opponent because there are a lot of strong Democrats out there that could probably beat Donald Trump in a 1v1 matchup. So this is my final prediction. 291 for Donald Trump and 247 for Joe Biden. So guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If so, please give it a huge thumbs up, like, subscribe. turn on post notifications to be up to date with our latest content. I will be posting daily from here on out. So I hope you guys are really excited for that. So thank you for watching and goodbye.